and you gonna murder this one and murder that one. Talking all that bullshit. I'ma put it to you like this, yo.
This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me. I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
What is poppin', everybody? And welcome back to another very special episode of the Only Friends podcast. Well, you know, it's me and my only friends, which includes, but it's not limited to, the legend of the underground scene. What's poppin', JRB?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
How you doing?
I'm doing good today.
We had to get you the full frame. Usually, you know, this is a little bit tight, but you're a tall individual. We had to give you the zoom out. I know you probably don't know this. Everybody in here is a stranger to you. You actually met Brian in 2011.
Phil's final table.
Phil Collins' final.
Yep.
So it was the bubble of the main event final table the day before when they were 10-handed.
Okay.
You were doing your rounds as you tend to do when the cameras are around.
Right.
Come through the audience.
I know exactly what you're talking about because I was going to bring this up.
And our section, you didn't know me at the time either. I was still a nobody 2-5 player at the point.
I'm still a nobody 2-5 player.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you're like near our area of the bleachers or whatever. You're like walking through saying hi to the people that matter. And Brian goes,
Drunk as hell.
blacked out. Just
And
blacked out.
I go, hey, what's up, Bobby? And you go, it's John Robert. And I was like, okay, all right, this guy.
Perfect introduction.
Okay, cool.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. That was your heyday. 2010, 2011. That's when you were like peak TV time, I think.
Okay.
That was right around have you made deep runs in the main?
The who?
The main event.
Yeah.
I made a couple deep runs. Yeah. What year? They were back-to-back years. I made when deep runs, top 70.
Yeah. I mean,
I
that's
got
deep.
72nd and 63rd.
Oh my God, this
years.
one, this clip right
This
here.
is by far my favorite JRB clip.
This.
This is so
You
good.
look so
This is
handsome today.
painful.
Very painful.
Yeah.
do need a double up, but I don't even understand.
We talk a lot about the landmines the pros have to dodge at the main event. Here's one.
I love the call, but I'm not very lucky in these kind of situations.
Wow.
You just knew.
We've all
This
been
must have been
there.
like
When
really
you
early
openly
with the
voice that
Bodog
sinking
patch.
feeling, that bad luck
It was like
is just around the
mid-2000s,
corner.
right?
In poker, it's almost as if saying it out
maybe,
loud
7?
can make it.
That had to be early. Not to relive the pain, but I mean, this is kind of your shtick, you know.
That guy actually literally said bye-bye to me
Yeah.
before he hit the gut
He
shot.
did. He said bye-bye.
That's some sick shit.
It's like you're looking at it like, did they edit that funky? No,
And
he
there's the
really
base.
said bye-bye.
No pair, no draw.
Come on.
Oh my God, he's so dead.
Now
this
Gene
is-
has a premature
was a yes.
celebration.
That's what
He's
fucked it up.
absolutely
Yeah.
tempting the poker
Yeah.
gods on this one.
No jacks and no sevens. No sevens, and I don't need any more pairs.
It's a 6.
Over to 6.
Not over yet, John.
Poor guy. You know, not to jump right into the
Oh no, Mamma Mia.
not to jump right into the story time, but
ladies and gentlemen.
there was I actually just hung out with Adam Blazarian at his suite at the Knights game the other day. I went with him and Keating and a few other guys, Chuck, and we were reminiscing about playing in Ivy's room. Do you remember the day when he went through your lowlights like mid-game, just stopped the game to pull up like a dozen videos?
I do remember one day him coming in there and just telling me he went through online just looking at JRB beats and said he had like 2 hours of fun laughing by himself, just crying, laughing.
Yeah, I think the culmination was the 5-3 suited hand. That it hadn't happened at that point, but
Okay.
I think that was the final nail in the coffin for your TV career. That one was legendary. Joey did quite the job with that one.
It was fun.
Do you ever get tired of having your worst moments just kind of put on display?
Not particularly. No. I you know, it is what it is, and you know that we can look back on it and laugh at it, and you know, Sometimes it's extra painful. That one right there was extra painful because, it's the main event. It's a deep run. You're not even talking about that much money at this point. There's like 75 people left in the event. So you're talking about it's like $100,000, which is, obviously that's still very, very nice money. But if it had happened a day later.
Right.
The
beats always get tougher because you're playing for more money.
Sure.
Stakes raise.
Yeah.
When did you kind of start leaning into the whole like broke living persona kind of? Because it seems like you're very jolly about this stuff, right? Like you gave Ingram a lot of credit for the 5-3 edit. You don't really ever give much pushback when people are pulling out your low light reels. You kind of just lean into it like, I'm just the unluckiest motherfucker around.
I don't know about all that.
It's obviously the opposite.
Well, Pops used to tell me when I was a kid, he's like, you know what, son? You have champagne taste with a beer budget. And that's kind of been how I've lived. Just like I definitely have lived beyond my means. Every once in a while, I financially qualify for the way I'm living.
Right.
How are we doing right now? Are we okay right now? Or?
I will tell you that no, the last couple of years have been brutal, but I feel like I'm on an uptick right now.
Love to hear it.
Financially living JRB doesn't hit as well as broke living JRB.
Yeah,
That's
right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Fiscally responsible.
Correct.
That's true. I guess like I've known you long enough now. I can't say that I've known you like your entire career. I actually don't know a lot of your backstory and stuff like that. But I started playing the game around 2013-ish, somewhere in that neighborhood. So a little over a decade, and watched you go from single living JRB to married to now married with kids. How much did that change, I guess, your approach to this persona?
You ask a very, very good question. And I will tell you, there's no plan in place. And you go and, first you start out having a serious girlfriend, and you're like, well, you don't really want her to get a full insight of you actually going broke, right? And
approach to this persona. Is that me?
Yeah.
No. That's that.
What's this?
And I will tell you.
Sorry, we're
okay.
We're a
difficulties.
bootstrapped operation here.
Right. There we go.
So,
Serious girlfriend.
Didn't you hit mute?
Obviously not.
No, he did once.
I'm trying.
Just turn it
There it
off.
goes. It's good.
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
no problem. Okay, yeah. So first you go through getting the girlfriend, and she's able to tolerate the swings, and then talk about getting married, and we have the kids. Well, it was a couple of years that we were planning to have kids and twins, and I was ready for it. So by the time I had the twins, and I'm doing pretty well and feeling pretty secure, and got the family going. Now you got a family of 4. For some reason, going from 4 to 5, that was the straw that
The tipping point?
well, that was the tipping point. I'm telling you, best poker face of my entire life, 100% was the day I came home and wifey's all teared up and she has 3 pregnancy tests out. She says, "Baby, I'm pregnant again." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing." I give her the biggest hug, and I'm like, it doesn't seem to it makes sense why going from a family of 4 to going to a family of 5. Why was that? But I mean, it just. I think it's because I just I'm making it. I'm making it.
Finally
and
got
now
there.
I was like, are you kidding me? Really? And to be honest with you, Maxwell's 3 right now. Wifey just dropped him off at Challenger School. He's got that little school uniform in preschool, and I mean, I'm having the time of my life with the kids.
When's the next one coming?
No. The next one is definitely handled.
That's the one we're putting you down.
Yeah. No, we thought we were done for sure, and this time, I mean, I was happy to go get snipped, but wifey got her tubes tied. Make sure. So
Extra
that
short,
was that. There will not be unless we decide to adopt, obviously.
I don't know. I don't know if a lot of people know the backstory of how you met your wife, and I don't know how comfortable you are telling the whole thing. But it's one of the most entertaining, like meet and greets turned into a love pairing that I think I've ever heard.
It's a pretty cool story, actually. Yeah. So, just I'll give you a little bit of the quicker version. Joe Cassidy and I, and back in the day, it was the Viffer, Dave Williams sometimes, but basically Joe Cassidy's booth was propped up right next to Jason, who was one of the owners, proprietors of Tao Group, and we were at Tao religiously every Thursday night with the second best table in the house. And one night, Jason's table is just filled with like 6-7 gorgeous Mexican models, and I'm like breaking my neck looking over there, and Jason left early, so now he's got these girls that are just sitting there with basically no host, which instantly became Joe and I. Right. And I'm just having the time of my life, just meeting, and I met this one girl I was just crazy about, and just from there tried to. At the time, she has a boyfriend, this, that, whatever, and but I deliberately stay away from hanging out too much with any of her friends because I want to make sure that lane is open.
Divide and conquer. Yeah. Gotta isolate,
Dude, it's interesting because, like, for me, I've been quite spoiled when it comes to dealing with hot girls and whatnot, and back then there was no plan to get married or have any kind of permanent situation. I would have been happy being a bachelor, but you meet your dream girl and it's like this is the one, and I had to fight for her.
I was gonna say you didn't just like waltz off on this one. You had to put some work in.
No, there was a lot of work. Anyways, this happened, and I honestly, guys, I got lucky because it was the week after I got home from shooting Survivor. Mm. So now I'm not my normal fat jovial self. I'm tan from 30 days out in the sun. I just lost 30 pounds, so I'm slim, looking kind of ripped. So I'm at my JRB best when I met her.
Yeah,
perfect timing.
And it was like the stars were aligned. And then she disappears out of my life for like 5 years. We didn't even really date, but I just knew this is like my dream girl, and she almost married the avocado farmer,
quote unquote.
Yeah. Do you remember Adam begging me, dude, don't go?
Yeah.
Adam Blazarian's like, because I guys, I got to put an effort in there, to try and stop her from getting married to this guy. Oh, that's what happened. They came and did their bachelorette party in Las Vegas, and one of her girlfriends was like, well, JRB's got all the Las Vegas hookups. So I dialed them in with some nice rooms, whatnot. I took them to dinner the first night, and then I had their whole weekend. And they're like, oh, we want you to hang out with us the whole time. And I was like, don't joke. And one of the girls was like, we should switch to Bachelor. And I'm like, yeah. And anyways, so I put in this one last effort, like 2 weeks before she was supposed to get married. I flew to Mexico to say, listen, I feel like you don't really want to get married. I would like to give us a chance. If this doesn't happen, you and I go date for a year, see how it goes, and then maybe you and I could start our own family. And she heard me, but the wedding was still on and off. Her best friend's like, listen, she's like wanted to cancel and get married 5 or 6 times. And I'm like, well, let me fly her the heck out of there. And I was looking at flying her to Valadera, Cuba. And her best friend's like, listen, if you fly her to Valadera, she's just going to fly right back. I know her, and she's been wishy-washy. So now I'm looking at flights to Melbourne.
There you go, yeah. Get real far away.
And I remember, and so I flew her and her mom to Madrid the Friday before this wedding was supposed to happen, 250-person wedding in Mexico.
Yeah,
that
pulled her right off the aisle.
Flew her to Madrid, and I remember thinking to myself, this is the most expensive vacation I've ever had, and I'm not even there. I set him up nicely at the W in Madrid, whatever. I don't know what it was. It was a pretty nice situation, and I met her out in Cannes the following week. We spent 3 weeks in Europe, and today she jokes about how she kind of had her honeymoon with me, and we've been together ever since. Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, it's a wild story. I want to say this was like 2015ish, somewhere in that time frame. So I'm like 2 years into the high stakes scene. Everything is still brand new to me, and I'm watching all of this unfold. And they're just like, jokes about how this is the last we're going to see of him, one way or the other. Either it's going to be married life or morgue life. We're not really sure. But like, it was fascinating because growing up where I grew up, especially like in an impoverished area or whatever, like you watch this shit play out on TV, but you don't think it's ever really a part of real life.
I mean, and people were worried. Are you sure you want to have your wedding in Mexico? Because
Oh yeah.
And I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but like my wedding party was like the who's who. Buddy, I had in my wedding party, I had my little brother and my best friend, and then I had Joe Cassidy, Rick Solomon, Bobby Baldwin, Eddie Ting, Nick Schulman. I mean, that's a pretty strong lineup.
Yeah,
big lineup.
Yeah.
Just could have got a game going later.
They did. 100%.
We did.
100%.
We did. I mean, I should drop $400K the night before my wedding. Wow.
You played a lot of pool with Nick, right? You've played like a lot of pool with Nick.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love playing pool.
Tell me a little about the pool stories. Like one pocket, right?
Yeah, we play a lot of one pocket. It's interesting because last night at the pool room, actually, Josh Aria was playing with Eric Wasserson, also one pocket, giving Was the massive spot that I give him. I actually gave Was too much of a spot, and he ended up beating me out of $100K about a year and a half ago. And last night I was like, all right, Josh, you try it. Josh actually ended up, I think he was small winner last night. But no, Nick Schulman, I think when he was like 18 or 19, he actually placed in the U.S. Open 9-ball tournament. Like, wow. Like he got like 13th place as like a real young.
He's like world class.
He's not world class. Well, he's not at a pro level. I would say Nick Schulman is my pool game is just like my poker game, in my opinion. It's like I'm better than any rec player and worse than any pro.
It's a sweet spot.
That is a sweet spot, right?
You can say the same thing about my pool game, and Nick's right there. Like Nick is not a pool pro. Had he decided to go that route, there's a good chance he could have been possibly. Right. But people always ask me who's the best in the pool world. In my opinion, if John Hennigan went and like spent 2 months straight in the pool room, that he would be the best of any pool players I know, of any poker players I know.
Yeah, I've heard the same. I don't know shit about pool, but I've always heard Johnny World getting thrown around as like the best of the best.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting parallel because obviously to get that good, you've been playing pool for the majority of your life. You talk about how you met your wife in a club. A lot of your backstory seems to revolve around being a host, these like small time gambling games. Like, I mean, I guess pool can become high stakes, but for the most part, people are usually betting pretty small and stuff like that. How did you transition from that whole world, which obviously has overlaps into poker, into the high stakes scene?
Well, it sounds a little crazy, but the guy who got me interested in poker in the first place was actually Jerry Buss, the guy who used to own the Lakers. Jerry was a regular at the club I promoted and worked for, Roxbury, back in the day. Some of you guys have heard that movie, The Night of the Roxbury.
Yeah, of course. Sure.
Yeah, that was meant. It's like a parody built off of a club that was truly impossible for anybody to get into, and so for me, that was like almost like my first or second sale. I sold shoes at Nordstrom, sold women's shoes at Nordstrom when I was 19 years old in university. And I used to think, wow, you know, I'm selling best shoes from the best name brands. So how cool is this? And then to be able to go to Roxbury, and now I'm working the most exclusive nightclub in the world. You know, how easy is it to get super hot girls to come, or rich guys that want to go spend money? It's like the easiest sales job in the world, in my opinion.
Right.
You know, and that translated into when Bill Macbeth asked me to, you know, at the time, the Aria was struggling. They're open their poker room. They got this gorgeous poker room, but you know, they had no business there the first year. And Bill Macbeth hired me over there to try and get the room pumping. And again, it's like, this is the easiest. This is the most beautiful room. How easy is this to sell? Yeah. And again now, with this new room that they built at the Venetian, and I'm over there doing the live stream on Saturday. I mean, I feel like Poker Go did such an amazing job building that room
incredible.
there.
It really is.
And Venetian, and they treat us so well. You see how they give us the butler service for dinners and whatnot. I mean, it's like everybody I invite there, like, wow, this is such a great experience. And you know, I'm fortunate, but I do try and get myself in situations where I'm offering the best of the best.
With the high stakes game that developed eventually in Ivy's room, I was aware of it when it first popped off, but I wasn't really around. That was right after Ben made that deep run in the main event in 2011. Is there truth to the fact that when you guys first started that game, he was so good that you would not let him raise pre-flop?
That was actually Bobby's idea. We were short players one day, and you know, Ben and Scott Seaver obviously were always shut out of the game. And Bobby says, "You know what? We're gonna let you guys play, but you're not allowed to raise."
It's amazing.
You're not allowed to raise.
Yeah,
unless they were raised or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know what it was, but it was like, you know, to me, it didn't sound like that much of a spot until I started getting texts from Scott Seaver. Hey, stop doing that. And I'm like, oh, shoot. Scott's great. I love him.
So that game originally started at 200, 400. It was a core group of like...
It started at 1-200.
Oh, 100, 200. Okay.
Started at 1-200. Initially, it was called the executive game because it was like a bunch of Aria marketing guys and hosts or whatnot, and it was a $5,000 buy-in game, and then
boy, that changed quick.
Yeah,
100,
then,
200,
eventually became. Were we doing 20K?
The very first session, I don't know if you'll remember this or not. The very first session I played, Bob had been begging me to get into the game for a long time, and he didn't know that I was broke. So I was playing like 5-10 with like Hollis and those guys at the Tropicana Jamie Gold game. And Bob would come in, you know,
right,
and he'd be like, well, we got a bigger game you can get into. I'm like, someday, you know, like, but I'm stone broke at the time. I have like $10,000. I have a good summer in 2013, cash for like $550K at the series. And I was finally like, hey, you know, if there's a seat. So you guys were shorthanded one day. It was 200, 400, 20K min. And I came in, I had like 100,000 and way too much of myself. I had like, you know, 80% of myself or something.
That's about right.
You know, whatever. We're rifling it. And the lineup was me, you, Bob, someone else, and then this local guy. I can't recall his name. He always wore a San Francisco Giants hat, and he would play 1-3 anytime he wasn't playing the big game with you.
I know who you're talking about. He might still be around.
Yeah, he had like a grayish goatee.
I know.
Nice guy.
This guy was a regular in the 1-3 game.
Yeah, like every day.
It's amazing.
When you guys say 1-3, you mean
$1,
like
$3.
$3.
Okay.
Like,
and then was coming and playing 2-400.
Yeah.
People just love the game, you know?
That's fucking amazing.
What's his name?
They play the same
No,
according to
Bob,
Matt.
What was his name? What is such a nice guy, too.
yeah, super nice guy.
And by the way, a small winner in the game, I believe.
He beat me that day. He beat me out of a big one.
What do you learn from there?
And then Alan Richardson was supposed to play. And I don't know if you recall, but he walked in the room with Lisa Hamilton, saw me sit, turned around, walked right back out, and an hour later came back with a printout of my Hendon mob and handed it to you.
I do not recall that, but that does sound like Alan Richardson.
Yeah, just
Are you serious?
we got off on the best foot, me and Alan.
Wow.
Just the best guy.
The hand and mob.
This is the
guy you brought to the game.
The guy that doesn't play tournaments at all.
Right.
So obviously I'm brand new to this scene. I don't know shit about what the proper decorum is in this environment. I'm just trying to stay quiet and go unnoticed as much as possible. But I've been used to grinding, and I'm very particular about how I eat and stuff. So I brought a backpack with food in it. I don't know if you remember this or not, but I had a little thermos full of chili, and it has like a vacuum seal on it. So I had it nice and tight, and it was piping hot. And we took a break. You were taking us to John George, which I certainly didn't expect that. So we all decide to break for dinner. And as we're getting up, I pick up my book bag, and the vacuum seal on this with the heat was so compressed, the chili explodes like a bomb in my book bag. It's just like, boom. Like, oh my God. And everybody's like, what the fuck was that? I was like, I have a thermos of chili in my book
Pack my
bag.
lunch, guys.
And I just thought, I remember being horrified. I was just like, I'm never going to fit in here. I don't stand a chance.
You came in and you fit in great. You were like, I remember there were times when you get beat up pretty good. You were always a gentleman and always pleasant. And, I thought you were a great addition for us over there.
How as a game runner do you make those decisions? Because, mostly now the optics have changed a lot. Like, it's very difficult to tell the difference between a Stanley Tang who, claims to be recreational and a young crypto rich guy that actually is a recreational. You sit them next to one another and they both just look like pros in some regards. But back then, I think it was a little bit more clear what you were dealing with. How do you decide, like, who's a good addition to the game? Who will serve you as a seat filler? Who will serve you as a regular? Outside of obviously the wealthy businessmen.
Well, the first thing I'm going to tell you is that I definitely made a number of mistakes. There were a couple guys that I shut out of the game that I kind of wish I hadn't. Keith Lear is one of them. And the reason why I say Keith Lear is because, and this could be kind of a lesson for a lot of you young folks that are trying to run games, trying to participate in these recreational games and whatnot. Keith is a guy that I think most people know is going to win in the long run. But he's so pleasant and so fun and makes the game fun for people around him that you're just like, okay, you know what? Yeah, I think he's good, but I don't mind playing with him because I enjoy my time when he's around.
Yeah.
And, and I've apologized to him recently for shutting him out of that game because he would have been an incredible addition. Not only that, he would have probably brought us a lot of recreational players as well.
Yeah.
And but making those decisions, you're like, basically you're trying to create a group, some comrades. Your buddies you're playing all the time, and it's like this same group. Here comes a couple that weren't here last time. Here comes a couple. Chamath is visiting from California. Here comes Chesnov, David Chesnov. I mean, isn't it hard to believe we're playing poker with David Chesnov 3 days a week? I mean, how in the world does this guy have time to play with us when he's over there, defending Martha Stewart or Shaquille O'Neal, or whatever? It is insane.
Yeah.
But he used to come in there, and I mean, he was so happy to win $50K. It was great. It was great. And one of my favorite, because you just brought up the Alan Richardson. So David Chesnov is obviously, like a god for some people. And Chesnov comes in there and he says, Bobby, let me get 50,000. And of course, Bobby just sends Chesnov 50,000. Chesy wins 50 and goes home. And next day comes back empty-handed. Bobby, let me borrow 50. Bobby snapped 50. He wins 50. And then the next day does it again. 3 days in a row, comes empty-handed. Bobby loans him 50. He wins 50, goes home. On the fourth day, Alan Richardson says, Bobby, let me borrow 50. And Bobby says, Well, Alan, your box is right. He's like, yeah, we'll wait for you. You go ahead, go to your box. You're all right.
He was. I'll tell you what. Baldwin was one of the most intimidating people that I had sat across from, especially in an environment like that. In my shoes, like, he's the guy that I felt like I had to impress the most, and it was so hard because it's like he's difficult to give action to. He's not exactly mixing it up in a lot of pots. And I recall one time where you guys had put a game together. It was a really good game, and Baldwin specifically asked you to call me in to fill the eighth chair. So I come in, and at the time I had been on quite an upswing after being on a massive downswing. I think I lost like 5 million straight and then turned it around. And the game was like myself, you, Bright, Baldwin, John Morgan. I don't know if Robo or Marcus was in the game. Maybe one of them was, but eventually we got shorthanded and it was just the five of us. And I have like 750,000 in front of me, maybe a little bit less, and Bobby has me covered to my left. And we play this pot where I open or I 3-bet like 4 hands in a row, playing 5-handed 3-6-12, and the 4th hand you open, I 3-bet king jack suited, and he 4-bets from the 1200. Now obviously it's that's a big hand, but I kind of like playfully ask him if he wants action, and he says yes. So I put in like 75k pre, something stupid, Comes ace 8-6 rainbow. So obviously you can see how this turns into a big one. Goes check, check. Turn is the queen of my suit. So I pick up a gut shot flush draw. I check. He bets half pot, like 75k into 150, and I call. River's an offsuit 10. I check. I just lead for like 150 or 200. And then I just have all small chips for like another 350 or 400 in front. He's like, you got any big chips? I go, no, because I'm just like so caught off guard because I've never seen a spot like this where he didn't have the absolute nuts that I like took a beat before I snap call, and I call, and I just assumed somehow we're chopping. Like somehow he had lost his mind with the king jack pre-flop, and we got there. He rolls over a set of queens, and I table the nuts. And he's just like, how much? And I'm shaking. I can't count my chips. I have like 10 different denominations of chips. I'm trying to get him an official count. It's always wrong. He's like, let the dealer do it. Finally, we get a number. He pays it off, and he just puts his visor on, or takes his visor off. Sorry, he sets it down. And he goes, well, looks like I gotta go work tomorrow, boys. And I was certain that was the last day I was ever gonna step foot in that room.
Nah, you gotta get the money back.
I remember
you walk on with it.
That was when he used to put his visor down on the table. That was
the signal.
That was the signal that he was done for
Rack
the night.
chips.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to that visor? I haven't seen that visor in 10 years.
I don't know. Honestly, like everything's changed so much since that Ivy Room game. I mean, that game really evolved, right? Well, you're saying you started off 100, 200, 5K minimum buy-in.
Right.
When I got in a couple years later, it's 2-4, 20K buy-in. Within a month, you guys are playing 3-6, then 3-6-12. Within a year, 100K minimum buy-in. And
we had 1 year. I don't remember what year it was, but for the entire year, it was a 200K buy-in. And the blinds were 500, 1K, 1,500.
It was, wow. I believe it was the year that all of the guys from Macau, when they had first gotten the wave of poker, the Paul Fuas and Richard Yongs and all them, they were here. And they were I mean, obviously that got put to a stop pretty quickly, but those were wild, wild times. I don't even remember all of the $1 million pots that I played during that time, but like Marcus was a big part of it. Rick Solomon was here all the time.
Marcus, wow.
I was the only one who liked him in the game.
It's funny. So Marcus is brutalizing all of us, except for I guess Matt and Bobby.
Bobby, yeah.
And to this day, I actually think that there's a good chance that Marcus used to deliberately lose pots to Bobby.
I think so.
Because Bobby just loved playing with Marcus. Yeah. Nobody else wanted to play with him because he had beaten us up so much.
Yeah.
And every time, you're like, oh, we don't need Marcus, and Bobby would be like, no, we'll make sure Marcus has
Smart.
Yeah.
He was like the second evolution of guys that just gave way too much action. Like prior to him, it was like the Rui Cows and the Pat Pandas of the world. Like, I mean, these guys are legends. Rui's still around, obviously, but that whole wave of like when Macau poker was new was something very special. I mean, they were loose and fast with money. Very, very different than now. I mean, like we're back now, just like looking around at the private game. I think 200, 400 is pretty much the biggest game around, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, underground private games, but like what you guys are starting now at the Venetian, this is going to be pretty consistent 100, 200, I think.
I think so. I think you'll see splashes of 2-400 during summer. But actually, I got a request to go to 2-400 the other day. Brian and I discussed. I said, no, right now the size is perfect. We're building some momentum. Let's leave it alone. You can always adjust the game a little bit by, allowing a little more straddles or straddling myself. Mm-hmm. If I want a game to play bigger, I'll just auto straddle.
Yeah,
and then a lot of times, two or three other people will follow suit. They'll mimic what I do. All right, I'm auto straddle.
Looking back on that time frame where the big game in Ivy's room kind of came to an end, it was a real perfect storm. Bobby leaving MGM, COVID was just about to happen. A lot of other things were occurring at the same time. Do you have any regrets as far as like how you transitioned out of that game? Like, do you wish that you would have kept the game alive, moved it elsewhere? Was it kind of a byproduct of you and Robles' relationship that eventually, once COVID hit, everything frayed? Or
I think a number of things happened right around that time. First of all, COVID was best thing to happen to home games.
Yeah,
everybody wanted to play in home games, and and COVID kind of was an enunciation, an expression of people don't want to just sit down and play cards. They want the social experiment. Mm. When they had those glass walls initially, that was just a miserable poker experience.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to go there. And you could argue about the safety or not, whatever. But the bottom line is like, is that a poker game? No. That's not. You're going there because you want to bullshit with your friends.
You might as well play online.
You want to
at that
needle.
point.
You want to talk shit. You want to have fun.
The online Six Max guys are loving it.
Yeah.
I was playing in Bellande, like you were playing 10, 20, 40 open, and it was only six-handed. It was like, it's time.
That was their time.
They waited their whole lives for this moment.
I mean,
ready to party.
I think things just happen and things transition out, and now this. Yes, that was the end of a nice era, but they still have a nice game going over there at Bellagio and at Aria right now. And we've got our nice thing going at Venetian, and I think that you're going to see like incredible games popping up worldwide. This thing with the Wynn opening up in the Middle East,
Dubai,
pretty exciting. Yeah.
You spent some time over there. Do you have any plans of going back?
There's a good chance that I'll be popping in and out of there. I really enjoyed it. I think Dubai's a fantastic place to live. That's not exactly where the Wynn's going to be. There's still an hour outside of that, but that whole area, I think it's going to just modernize and become a lot more accepting to the Western way of life. And it's a very clean and extremely safe city. And when you have young children like I do, safety is everything.
It's like a brand new city. I mean, it didn't look like that, 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
Exactly. And we as guys that live in Las Vegas, we're exceptionally spoiled when it comes to top-notch restaurants, top-notch sushi, everything. So we've gotten a taste that, going and having restaurants maybe in Oklahoma might not just do the job anymore. But I'm telling you, the quality of food in Dubai is ridiculous too.
Yeah, I thought it was. I was shocked. I expected it to be a much more conservative nation based off of just not knowing shit about shit when it comes to the rest of the world. And I was pretty shocked at how well established the city was and how much they they put like service really at the top of their priorities. You know, like I was staying in like a 5-star hotel, and albeit like, you know, the conversion rate, I understand the dollar is very strong there, but it was like $300 a night.
Right.
So I was at a secondary hotel, a part of the one and only. I can't remember the name of it, but it was dedicated strictly to healthy living. So you had a gym in your room. You had the 24-hour gym downstairs. You had a full access to like
$300 a night. That's so
yeah,
crazy.
it was insane, right? And the whole city seemed to be constructed in that sort of way, where it has like lifestyle at a priority. And like you mentioned, like one of the safest places outside of the hustles. There were a lot of hustles.
You did get hustled a little bit.
You got got.
He got got.
Does JRB know this story?
I don't know if I told you the story or not.
I'm not sure, but can I trouble someone for just a bottle of water, please?
Yeah, he got you.
Go ahead, tell me.
One of the last nights there, went out to a bar with a few people and ended up meeting this girl. Don't worry about it. And we were just like hanging out. She kept ordering drinks. It was at a hotel bar, and you know, none of the drinks were that pricey. So, you know, one after another, finally she's like, I have to use the restroom. I'll be right back. Like, okay. When she leaves, the manager comes and has a bill, and he's like, it's 5,000 AED or whatever the local currency is, right?
Thank you.
And it's like, you know, basically I think like 6 to 1 or something on the dollar.
Right.
So I have like a $1,200 bill. I'm just like, that cannot be right. Like, we have nachos and some mixed drinks. And he's like, no, that's right. And I was like, well, I'm telling you that it can't be. Like, I need to see your manager. He's like, I'm the manager. And I'm like, what's going on here? And I'm just getting shaken down, basically. So they're, you know, yelling at me in Arabic and telling me I'm not leaving this place without paying. I don't know what my rights are in this situation. I've never been in a spot like this. So obviously, like, I just give them my card and go home. And then I Google it and find on Reddit that this is just like a massive scam that occurs in like specifically the business district in Dubai with like foreign men and local women.
And I'd never heard of that one or seen that one. I mean, I definitely was at a bar and a smoke show comes by and I'm like, hey, can I buy you a shot? And I mean, the response is 5,000 for 2 hours. I'm like, dang, dude, no green, nothing. And to me, it was shocking at how, like, you know, in the Western culture, at least there's like a little
song and dance.
It's nice to get the rates up front.
Tiny bit. It's just like that'll waste no time. Yeah. And by the way, wow, yeah, no.
Does he know about your finest moment at the strip club?
Mine?
Yeah.
I don't think I know about it.
Yeah, you do.
What?
When you befriended. And
long story short, I went to a bachelor party in New Orleans, and we were making our rounds in the strip clubs, and I just like have very little interest there. Like, you know, it's kind of whatever. So this group of strippers comes over to our table, and you know, they know it's a bachelor party, so they're working the room, and this one's chatting me up for a while, and you know, I'm like, it's almost like a game to see how long she'll just chat me up without working. So I'm talking to her, I'm asking her about herself, we're kind of hitting it off or whatever. And I was like, you know, don't you need to go dance? And she's like, no, I'm just going to take the rest of the night off. And then she's just walking Bourbon Street with us for the rest of the night. It ended up being like this, she has, you know, bringing friends along or whatever. So it ends up being this co-ed sort of like bachelor party / stripper fest in the middle of New Orleans. It was quite the experience.
Pretty cool. I mean, obviously, it's pretty strong to be able to pull a girl out of work,
right?
Without any
It was a Tuesday, you know.
Still, I mean, they're there to make money. If they're leaving work to hang out with you, that means
yeah. It was a fun trip. That's for sure. Circling back to I guess like poker and just the high stakes lifestyle that you're going on 20 years living. I'm sure that like no place outside of a high stakes private poker game are more deals done between business people and even like lay people. What are some of the most impressive deals you've been privy to in your time, and are there any that like you missed out on that you super regret?
Man. Wow. You ask a really, really good question. Oh man, dude, wow.
I should have prepped you with this one because people do this to me all the time. They're like, "What's the worst beat you ever took?" And it's like I don't have it at the top of my head, but there's one in there for sure.
No, but you were probably around when obviously in the poker community, Bitcoin and Ethereum were discussed, pretty openly. I saw an email from Dan Bilzerian to his assistant to purchase $1 million worth of coins when Bitcoin was at $17.
Oh my God!
And she did not execute it.
That one.
Damn.
The world's a better place.
Didn't execute how?
She
didn't think it was a good idea.
I don't know. She just didn't get it done somehow.
Pain.
But I remember about him bitching about it. And then Adam Bilzerian, actually, he was almost on a campaign for Bitcoin not to do well because he missed out so many opportunities on that. But
that's Oaken. He's been shorting it from day one.
Jeez.
Generational hater. Just hating.
It's hard to keep that short open, let me tell you.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. But, man, Ilya actually, was he ever playing when you were playing with us?
Yeah. I was there whenever Eddie got out of jail. You guys had a hell of a game that day. I was on the outer table. They were playing like 2K, 4K. We were playing like 300, 600, waiting to maybe get a seat.
Yeah. I mean, I was it Jet Smarter or whatever. There's a number of those that Ilya was offered early investment opportunities, partnerships with. Everything just came across his desk somehow. But I feel like.
Do you think one of your worst investments was buying a piece of Aussie Matt heads up versus me?
What do you mean? He got it all back.
Wow.
I mean, it took years. I slow bled.
I didn't. He might have got it back, but I didn't get any of it back. I know that.
No, he didn't either. I lost more the next day, or I lost some back the next day. But
you were playing one of the best heads up PLO guys. Heads up live. He had to be about the best there was. For playing against recreational type players, and you had almost no experience playing.
Zero. I mean, I played like a little bit in my early days, but I still don't know anything about PLO.
Sure. I mean, that's just like, wow. I had like 20 or 30% of them too.
Jesus Christ.
Oh no.
Yeah. How much did you beat him for?
1.7.
You want something stronger than that water?
To give some context, I truly didn't know how to play PLO very well at all. And to be fair, I didn't know how to play heads up hold'em either. Like, it was a game that terrified me. My whole thing was that I could find ways to give a lot of action in like full ring games and, kind of hide in situations where other people were playing pots, whatever. But when it came to heads up, like, you feel very exposed. You need to be able to play every single hand. With Matt, though, I was stuck a little bit. We had just gotten seats in the game. The game broke down around us. And I was stuck small, maybe like 80K. He was stuck like maybe 150 or whatever. But, and I know you've played with him enough, you could see, he was blind with rage. You know when he gets so tilted that it's just like he's straddling all in?
Yeah.
That kind of, he was in that mode. And he goes, "Do you want to play heads up?" And I was just like, yeah, like I would play him in flipping coins at this point because I still think somehow the world would work in my favor. And he's like, "I don't want to play hold'em." I go, "That's okay, me either." And he goes, "You want to play like triple draw or something?" I don't know how to play any of these games. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to offer him his best game because there's no way he's going to say no. I was like, "Let's just play heads up PLO." He goes, "Done." He's blind opening every single button. I played 0% 3-bet for 9.5 hours. Just once I got up, there was no getting it back. I would have double suited aces, just call, not going to let this guy flip with me in any sort of capacity. And I just beat him down like 100 big blinds at a time until halfway through the match. So like I could only loan so much, it was like a quarter of my money and then I'm staked and sold and everything else under the sun. So at one point I'm up like 800K and Robo had vouched for up to 800, but it's 4 a.m. and Matt's now out of chips and he goes, "Give me 200. And I'm just like, there's no one to defer to here. Like nobody to call, nobody to text. And I'm just like, I think he's good for it. Slide him 2 barrels and this just keeps happening over. So we only have my chips in front of me by the end of the night. And this just giant debt looming. So I had a big sweat between 6 a.m. when I went to sleep and later that evening when I came back. But then I came back and played him again. He was so fucking good. I mean, he's just like watching the games. He's not tilted at all.
Right.
I stood no chance.
I saw Matt in another situation where he was seeing red like that. Can you imagine you're playing this game, and the game wasn't that big. I would say it was like maybe 300-600, but the side bet that he wanted, every single PLO hand he had, he offered everybody at the table 105K to their 100K flip, hand against hand. While the game's going, you have a side bet, and 5 of us are in on it every single time.
Oh my
it's just
God.
you can't turn down a 5% edge
Right,
like
no,
that.
of course
right?
not.
Wild.
Yeah.
And I mean, the
That's
swings
bloody.
of that game, that is bloody.
Yeah.
He was. I mean, can you imagine how hot he was to offer that 105 to 100?
I remember
5 of us were doing it every single
Oh
time.
my God! How are you just gonna get destroyed?
I remember when Ethereum shot up.
There he is.
We just knew how rich he was at that point. Man, he was the true first crypto legend that I'd come across.
You say you knew how rich he was. How about I was on the airplane? I think Roble rented a plane, and we all flew private with, I think it was Eddie, Rob Young, and Matt. And Matt showed me his crypto wallet when we watched it move to the 200 million mark.
Oh my God!
I'm like, you're looking at your board.
right.
You and I know each other?
Yeah, right.
And it just clicked over from 198, whatever, to 200. That was pretty sick.
How
And,
the
and,
mighty-
and, and the guy's in mid-30s. What in the
Right.
world?
What
you
do
know?
you? Yeah.
He got that order done for $1 million at 17.
Yeah. He got. Yeah.
That's why she couldn't
He
do
got
it.
a lot of Ethereum under $1, probably.
I remember. This was years ago. I remember when it was just ticking. I think it was Eddie. Eddie was telling me, he's like, bro, it's the craziest thing. I'm like making $1 million a day. He's like, and every day I make $1 million. Aussie Matt makes 2.
Man.
That's fucking
man.
sick.
I
You
can't.
needed that 1.7 now.
You
know,
guys
it's-
have no idea how good the games were.
Yeah, games were pretty
I
sweet.
mean, the games were just incredible. Do you ever miss that time frame at all? Like, it was stressful too. Like.
The games are fun, and they'll never be as good as that. But if you talk to Bobby Baldwin and Billy Baxter back in the day when they were playing No Limit Deuce, 40 years ago with the Colonel. I mean, there's this guy that Bobby says they called him the Colonel. I think he owned the Silverbird Casino. And one day Bobby came back and his box is empty, and then finds out, well, the owner of the casino borrowed Bobby's chips because he went broke. Oh, Bobby, I need your chips. I mean, that's how it used to work back in the day. Is that right?
Yeah.
Seriously,
That's wild.
and he also knew that Bobby would probably be okay with it. Who knows what? The guy owned the casino. I guess you could make worse loans.
It's truly wild to hear some of his stories too.
Yeah, but I think that with all this information that's online, on YouTube and whatnot, and obviously you can go and you can study and significantly improve your game. Anybody can. It makes the game has evolved. I honestly believe that even a guy like Doyle Brunson 30 years ago, if he played like the way he did, he's not going to beat a 2-5 game today.
Right.
That's the and I'm sure people are like pissed off at me for saying some stupid shit like that.
Yeah.
But it's just the truth.
Yeah.
They didn't understand stuff like they do now. And a normal recreational player has a lot of knowledge, has more knowledge than Doyle would have been able to get back in the day.
Right.
But as that happens, new things happen, like that squid or the stand up. It's like variations on a theme, and part of the reason why people are drawn to mixed games, maybe, or variations on, No Limit Hold'em, is because it's fun to be at a table and your mind is thinking, and you're being creative, and you're trying to decide, okay, can this work? Does this work? And without it being solved.
Right. Yeah. No authority to appeal to, just kind of games of wits and wagers.
Yeah. And to me, I think that's the fun part of poker, and that's why you see a lot of guys that are CEOs playing, high limit poker. It's because, as a CEO, you got to make serious decisions, and any decision you make a lot of times in a poker game can take you broke.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to make key decisions on the fly.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned a lot of the old school guys like Bobby and Doyle, and obviously their era is kind of thought to be like the hustlers era. It was wrought with cheating, and it was really about like outmaneuvering the other guy by any means necessary. I think for a long period of time there during the moneymaker boom, we saw the game legitimize itself. It became worldly popular. It started to get a lot of TV coverage. I feel like in recent years, though, we're starting to see this swing back to this hard divide between people that are pretty cooperative in the environment and expect a level playing field and are just trying to play a game of wits and wagers, as we mentioned, versus the cunning type of person who's coming in and he's looking for every single edge that he could possibly gain, whether it's savory or unsavory. Is this something that you feel like in your long career has gotten worse? And then second question to that is, do you have any notable stories of ones where you feel like you were cheated? Or
I'm going to tell you that exactly what you're talking about. Well, it's interesting. Archie Karros, you guys have probably heard the name.
He's the craps guy.
Yeah. Well, he craps, but he initially won $1 million or $2 million playing pool in the pool room, and the guy he beat that first money from tells me he couldn't have won $500 from Archie. Anyways, so $2 million goes into $40 million, and then Archie went broke again, whatever. But I used to play pool with Archie in the pool room, and it's like you go to the bathroom, you come back, and the balls you made are all of a sudden on his side, and it's like Archie did. Yeah. If we can't just like be able to trust each other like this, then I don't want to play you anymore, because it's exhausting. It makes it not fun for me, because I'm already trying to do my best to win the game, and now I got to use effort to make sure that you're playing straight. And that's why when you see certain people that are so happy to take the angle shoot or capitalize on what a player is doing, but something. And this is not necessarily bad poker. When you're over here and you're studying and you already know that the guy behind you is going to fold, well, now your position essentially changes from the hijack to the cutoff. Is that good poker or bad poker? That's probably great poker, but is that something I really want to be dealing with? And if I see a player doing that and always trying to get an edge from it, that's somebody who I'm going to be way less likely to welcome to come play in my private games, because, I'm one of those guys that's kind of carefree, and I'm already almost folding my hand out of turn, once I'm disinterested. And, a good player is going to recognize that.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, very. This is something I spoke about earlier this week, where I was basically saying that one of the things that's allowed me to stay in this community is that I understand my value to a game. It's to come and offer something in return, and oftentimes what that thing is giving up EV in a lot of these spots. It's playing too many hands, it's calling too many bets and raises, and just freely putting money in loosely. But what allows you to do that is being in an environment where you're playing fast and loose and comfortable, and everybody's unguarded. The second that you have somebody who's looking for these edges, be them savory or unsavory, you now have to guard against that, right? I text you and asked you an example of a situation where a guy folded out of turn, I acted, and then the guy previously limp raise. And I said, what are your thoughts on this? And I was most frustrated by this, one, because he was a fellow professional, but two, because it is one of those things where you're taking advantage of the fact that we're all trying to do something to make the game more fun. We're trying to play fast. We're trying to not overthink your limp and, counter a strategy or anything along those. It's just like, I'm just going to act on my hand accordingly, and whatever happens, happens. And now, this kind of angle comes through where it's like, oh, I got him. I knew you would raise and 3 people would call, and now all this dead money, fuck you. that to me, I feel like it's growing trendy, not in a sense of the majority of people do it, but in the sense that there's a sliver of people who get into the game and that's their sole focus. Like they want to be able to say that like they got one over on you way, way more than they care about the actual money itself.
Which reminds me actually of an argument JRB had with Phil. It was
which Phil?
Helmuth.
Oh, okay, had to be
It's
Helmuth.
not similar, but I just kind of want to run this back real quick. I just want to show you this.
For the American public, when someone bluffs on the end and they say you got it, you're supposed to flip your hand and win.
No, you're not. No, you're not. This is a good lesson for the American public. You're exactly right. When, let me talk, Sam, for a second. When you say good call, you throw your hand in the muck, and then I can throw my hand in the muck and take the pot. No,
you want to bet?
win.
I'll bet you $10,000.
You can bet whatever you want to. You're out of your mind. When I say
let me tell you how stupid you are. Let me tell you why you're wrong. You don't want him flipping
These guys are brutal, man.
His hand.
He might have.
So why do you want him to see his cards?
I don't want to see his cards. I want his cards to hit the muck. I don't want you to see my cards. That's what I want, okay? I don't want you to see my cards.
I just remember watching this and like...
You're dead right there, by the way.
It is interesting because you're looking at 4 old school guys, and that's the way it always was, because the veterans, they want to give you as little information as possible. To this day, I can tell you that I have seen as few hands from Bobby Baldwin as fewer than anybody else compared to the number of hands I've ever seen, because they do not want to give you that information. They want to get your information and not get your information. And I'm arguing with it over here kind of more like as a rec player versus a pro. Guys, this is not right. You want to see their hand, you got to show your hand. And I'm really glad that then this is like, a good 20 years ago, 17 years ago, that I'm making this argument, and I still stand by this argument today.
I don't want to see it. Now I want to see it.
Phil, I do not want to see your cards.
I want to see Bobby's cards.
I mean, you're dead right in this particular scenario.
This comes up with quite a bit.
Yeah.
This comes up quite a bit. If you want to see my hand, listen, I played a massive pot with Keith Lear in Dubai 2 months ago, and I called him $530,000 on the river with a pair of deuces that I started with, and he says good call, and I'm like waiting for him to throw the hand in the muck. He says good call, and like you win, and I'm like okay, you win, just throw your hand in the muck.
Yeah, right.
And then my partner Albert checked me. He's like, Robert, you're out of line. You got to show your hand. And I really didn't want to, but I wasn't going to argue with Albert. And it's a massive pot, and Keith's my boy. It's already brutal. You losing the big pot, but I would have really liked for him never to know that I'm capable of making that call with 2 deuces, and that I have to do it. Now I have to just believe that he had the ace king and missed because he said it.
Yeah, you don't
and
get any information.
Later on, I haven't checked him. I said, you didn't really have ace king. And he's like, well, okay, I had ace queen. What? But who knows? I still don't know what he had.
Right.
He knows what I had.
His cards is the polite thing to do is for you to just roll over your hand and show him the winner?
That is what is being said is polite and good etiquette, supposedly. But I argue that it's just not fair to get information without giving information.
Right. Correct.
You should have to. I'm happy to show you my 2 deuces. Show me your hand. If you don't want you're too embarrassed to show your hand, just politely throw your hand in the muck and allow me to do the same.
Did he still have his cards when they were asking for you to show your hand, or was his hand in the muck already?
He had his hand. He had his hand. You're talking about?
No, I'm talking about
Phil
with Lear.
He still had his hand.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I want, that's the thing. I would want to keep the muck before I flip my hand. I have deuces.
That's what I'm saying.
He goes over 3s or something.
Yeah, who knows? Like you saying I'm good, I'm good. Whatever, muck your hand.
That's correct. But I mean, I'll tell you.
Knock does that to me all the fucking time. He'll be like, "You're good," and I'm like, "Okay." And I table ace high, and he's like, "Oh, I have 3rd pair."
The vibe here was that I had Keith beat. I mean, I was pretty certain I had him beat. You are correct that is extra brutal if you're giving him another chance to slow roll you on $1 million pot.
Yeah. I have a question for you. What do you think sets you apart from other game runners to allow you to run the biggest game that was one of the biggest games
why
around.
are you so sought after?
Well, it's interesting. I mentioned this a time or two, but if one day I get inducted to the Hall of Fame in poker, the thing I want to be remembered for is JRB was one of the guys that brought fun back to poker. And Matt's played no less than probably 400 poker games with me, and he'll tell you that some of the funnest poker games he's ever had were with me. Yeah. We are fun, and I'll tell you that I think it's a very fair statement for me to say that Matt's played way more than his fair share of recreational spots or games that he did not belong in.
For sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's absolutely true.
And why is that? Matt's pretty much known as a solid, good player. But some of these things that he's talking about where, maybe he calls a little too... Matt's also a very pleasant loser. He's not... He doesn't cause drama at the table, just like... and he plays fast. That's something that's a very underrated thing, is playing fast, not wasting time. Taking 7 seconds to muck your hand pre-flop is just completely unacceptable. These are things that make a poker game fun. Interesting conversation, obviously, participating here and there, and then, kind of button out when you're not supposed to be in there. These are things that, and I mentioned Matt, Keith Lear, another guy that doesn't belong in a lot of the games. Maybe I don't belong in some of the games I play in, but for the most part, I think I'm fun.
Yep.
So that's an interesting thread to pull at a little bit because over the years that I've known you, and then even prior to that, you were playing in a lot of these games. I do think it's abundantly clear that you shed the pro label at some point in time, right? Like going back to that clip from Poker After Dark, you were hardcore considered a professional at that point. You're sponsored by Bodog, you're a young up and comer for the scene at the time. Somewhere along the lines, that transitioned, right? I don't know, maybe it was a Survivor, maybe it was getting into the high stakes and being a part of that rare air with like Bobby and that crew. But notoriously, you have access to some of poker's elite when it comes to recreational gambling. Like you've played with pretty much everybody from Molly's game. You've built games around that same clientele. Something here is special to you, and I'm curious what that sauce is, because it's not like you're just asked to build these games. People go in business with you. I mean, I don't want to speak out of turn, but the vast majority, if not all of the games that you created, you had somebody financing you along the way as well. So what is the special sauce here? And, maybe it goes back to your club promoting days, but like, how do you get such access to people that are just inaccessible?
Guy's fun.
Kevin Hart. I remember Kevin Durant walking in to Ivy's room one day and like staring over the table and like greeting all of us. This is the most intimidating human you have no idea how deep this man's voice is or how fucking tall 7 foot looks until he comes up with you with a hand that will just engulf your head and go, I'm KD. I know who you are, man. What about the lore of this arena draws in so much celebrity attention?
Well, I mean, poker's fun. It's fun whether you're a celebrity or a grinder. I mean, as long as you make it fun. If it becomes too much about math and charts and whatnot, then but even then, if you study and you play and you're winning, poker. We had that recreational player. You remember? You'll remember his name's Nick out of Boston.
Yeah.
He actually got us.
He tried to get me batting practice at Fenway, and I never took him up on it.
He got us authentic Boston jersey,
a
Red Sox jersey. I remember he had Matt and my name put on the jerseys. But I remember one day he had a rough day, but he was laughing his ass off, and he's like, "Robert, this is the most fun I've ever had losing 300,000.
I remember that day very well. It was like late at night, 3 a.m. We're playing 4 or 5 handed, and we had a whole surround sound system in Ivy's room. He has his phone just running through some like old school R&B playlist, and he's just loving life in the process.
Right. Yeah. He said, "I've never had so much fun losing 300." And I mean, in 20 years of running games, that's like the greatest compliment ever, because it's like basically the guy's saying, "Look, win or lose, I'm having a blast here." And when you're a game runner, I mean, what a better compliment.
Right.
Yeah. Do you think that there is a shelf life to all this? Like, have you thought about transitioning out, doing something different, not being so stressed?
I just absolutely love it. I often joke with my friends, I'm going to be one of the 80-year-old guys at the back table in Commerce on a Saturday morning playing do 7, where they get mad if you check raise. You're not allowed to check raise in that game.
Oh, right.
Who came up with that?
Is this something that you would pass on to your kids? Like, would you encourage them to play poker and or gamble?
Would not, only because of the struggles. Like, I feel like I've had some unique situations to bail me out of dark spots that I've gotten into, and just like, of course, not everybody's going to be as degen as I am that goes into poker, but I'm a degen that's navigated the poker world, somewhat successfully. And actually, it's funny because Matt's talking about my heyday 10 years from now. I actually believe my heyday is coming 3 years from now. 2 years from now. That reminds me. I'm actually confident it is, and we'll review it 3 years from now when you see what's about to happen in the next 2 years.
I got to tell you, that reminds me of a story. I've told it before, but you were talking to Baldwin, and you were referencing that you were on the tail end of a $5 million downswing. Oh, no. And he just looked you dead in the face. He goes, "What makes you think it's the tail end?"
Yeah. So good. Yeah, that was at 4, and I did lose one more. That's correct. I did.
When you started playing poker, were you a tournament guy or a cash guy? And like, did you expect your life to be what it is now? Like, how'd that happen?
Yeah, first of all, I was never a tournament guy. I played a lot of tournaments and thought I was going to be able to survive playing tournaments. There was no way. I was terrible at tournaments, and just cash games, much more my scene. It's and I like it better too. I like that I know a lot of the people I'm playing with.
The camaraderie is way different.
Yeah.
There's just fun in cash where there isn't in tournaments.
Tournaments can be fun. The right tournaments, especially, I guess, a little bit bigger buy-in makes you take it a lot more seriously. But, I mean, the excitement of day 3, day 4 of a tournament.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing like that.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's just hard to get there.
You're playing, you're not even seeing flops. You're playing the game.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
It is tough to get there. And then, hey, every year you go to the main event, you're like, all right, I'm not going to punt this one. I'm not yep. If you do make it to day 3 or 4, you're real proud of yourself for like, not punting off the remainder of your chips that one time. But
you did win a bracelet in the 5K 6 max, and you did it with style. I mean, you were. Yeah, how in the world did you do that? No, you were. If I recall, you had wine delivered somewhere along the line, late day 3. Basically, went wire to wire, chip lead to the win. I know that tournaments aren't your shtick, and you're much more of a host. But does that bracelet have a special place in your career?
That one's actually extra cool because the 6 max is a highly respected event amongst poker players. I mean, basically, it's not really. You don't see too many dummies winning it besides me. But and the French guys love that tournament. The 6 max.
Oh yeah, the Winamax guys.
All the French pros are in there. And I went in there. People would come to me and say, "Oh, this person's this person's this." I'm over there clueless. I'm not really aware of who the other 5 guys are at the table. Yeah. But the turning point in that tournament was I was aware that there was like some superstar at my table with like three tables left, and I made a ridiculous all-in call. you know, that was the end of my tournament life with like a pair of fours. You know, it just was one of those things where you're just playing poker and you just, you know, you trust your gut and you go with it. You know, would the computer agree with my call? I think unlikely. You know, but that is one thing that has been always true about me in cash games, or if I think I'm in front, you know, I'm making the call.
I can attest to that.
Yeah.
I've been looked up a time or two.
I remember Gores checked Chuck Pacheco one time. He's like, dude, I thought you said this guy was down to his last 500,000, and he called me 300,000 with a pair of jacks, 10 kicker. You know, I'm like, and Rick Sullivan interjected. He's like, that's Robert. If he thinks he's got you, he's calling. Yeah.
Were you ever part of the open like cash game world, or you just like started in private?
I'm sorry?
Were you ever part of like
open
sitting, playing
sure,
10-20 and stuff like that earlier in your days?
Sure.
Okay.
Actually, it told Matt a story that happened in the 10-20 game recently. That's like, this is an unbelievable. This hand really happened. So the series of raises, it's the 10-20 at Bellagio, and the stacks are enormous, like 50 and 38,000. And it's a series of raises, and you know you're likely up aces against kings. Mm-hmm. And finally, you know, the guy goes all in, and after about an 8-minute tank, the guy's like, I just feel like you just have the aces. It's just like, you know, and the guy can't really bring himself to fold his kings, and the guy's not said a word the whole time. He says, dude, and finally the guy, after about 8-minute tank, he says, look, I'm only going to say one thing. I don't have aces. The guy immediately flips over his kings. He says, I call. And the guy turns over aces. And I'm like, what did I just witness?
That's amazing.
That's fucking horrible.
That's public poker in a nutshell.
Public poker.
I mean, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, I guess you're allowed to lie in poker. I mean, it's a little sleazy. I would never do it. But it was like, I was kind of like, that I sat there and witnessed this thing. Wow. He said, I don't have aces. Kings? Aces.
And that's when you started your private game.
I might feel a little douchey, but he's $42,000 richer.
Yeah. That's like the Tony G blind. Like the, of course I looked at my hand.
That's an angle that ridiculous. But you mentioned all the Frenchmen, and it reminded me of a story of Fabrice. Do you recall the time that his brother was in the room, like sweating his hands, and where that went with Bobby? Because we didn't allow people to sweat,
right?
Unless it was women.
Of course, yeah, that's correct. That was actually a true story. No sweaters in the room. No sweaters.
So Robert repeats this to him.
Oh my goodness, that's right. I said no sweaters in the room. He laughs, and I said no, I'm dead serious. No sweaters. He's like, and then he removed his sweater.
Swear to God, this is not made up.
Oh my God,
this is 100% accurate. He takes his sweater off, and Bob was like, "What the fuck is he doing?
No sweaters."
No sweat. He's like, "You serious? Are you serious?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude. No sweaters in here."
That's so great.
He's probably thinking, why the hell can I not wear a sweater?
Buddy, like, what? That really happened? I forgot about that.
Insane.
Yeah, that was
wow.
That's great.
It was pretty hilarious stuff.
I can see myself doing that, unfortunately.
It's an easy thing to like overlook. You're not thinking about the fact.
Surely somebody else had a sweater on though.
Yeah, you're nervous in the game, maybe, you know. It's just like
let's reminisce on a couple positive things before we get you out of here. What was your biggest upswing / biggest pot, most memorable pot that you won in all those years?
Didn't you play a really big one at the $1 million cash game, JRB? The Hustler?
Yeah. Oh, you know what? It's funny because that actually, it should be an amazing memory, but because I destroyed my boy Hanks, it was one of those mixed things where it's like you're so happy to win a big pot, and then you know you're like,
yeah.
brutal. I had ace king against his kings, and I scooped him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, you're really happy to win half a pot.
Right, of course.
Thrilled to get
you
3
hate to
quarters.
do it against your buddy.
I mean, to be fair, you bought the wine.
It's good wine.
Always a gracious host. What I was thinking of was more towards the end of your partnership with Marcus when the chairman rolled through and you guys played for 3 days straight.
Yeah. We talked about that the other day too. Yeah, and my run started. It was a $100,000 buy-in or $200,000 buy-in that day.
100K min. I bought in deeper.
Yeah, we bought 100K bin, and at
you
some
were
point,
in for 100.
A few hours into the game, I had aces against Berkey's kings. Doubled up, got me at like 500,000. Yeah, Berkey says, "That's it for me, boys. Good night." And next thing, Berkey heard 3 days later, Robert stacked 5.8 million.
Jesus.
Yada yada yada. Bright is texting me throughout all of this. So they played for 3 days straight. Like, I don't know if anybody's familiar with the chairman or even like just people like VIPs from Macau, but like their big thing is that they grind. Like,
right.
It's just like
when
nonstop.
They play.
Yeah, like a lot of the grinders in Macau will play 24-hour sessions just to get a seat with a VIP. So when he would come to town, he would just play for. I've still never met this man, by the way. This was the closest I came. I probably brushed elbows with him as I was walking out the fucking door. So Bright's texting me throughout all of this. The game changed from 300, 600, 1200, 100K min to who knows what stakes they were playing, $1 million min. They grandfathered JRB in with his like 700K stack. And, they're like 36 hours into this. Bright's like, all right, I'm headed up to the room. I'm like, the room? He's like, yeah, we got a room at Aria, and we're all taking shifts where we take hour naps. One person would leave the table, go take an hour nap, come back, refreshed as could be. I think he did okay in that too. And, for Bright, like a couple 100,000 over a few days in that spot was a pretty nice win. But all the talk was you had turned it all around. Just almost 6 million right off the rip.
Crazy,
insane.
And a few months earlier, I was working for Roble, and now he lives on the 45th floor of the Mandarin, and I buy a unit on the 45th floor of the Mandarin, and he's over there renting. Oh man, how much fun that was talking shit. Oh yeah, how's rent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're pretty quick to spend it.
Oh yeah. No, I bought that unit. Well, I mean, in all fairness, when you all degens out there, when you get yourself a nice little win, go buy property.
Yeah, right. Yeah, if you're gonna buy something, like
go
buy something that holds
property.
value.
Go buy a home.
Yeah, that one appreciated pretty nicely. I would think.
It did. I did. I mean, it's like I'm actually selling it now. I've had it 10 years now. I bought it as a gray shell for $1 million. I got it as a steal, and then I put 900,000 into the build out. So 1.9 in it, and it's for sale right now for 3.6.
Oh, it's
there
nice.
you go.
Nice turnaround.
Yeah.
I was in there for a WPT goal. It was a heads up shoot. Remember the Cabo trip?
Oh,
the
yes.
25K?
Yeah.
Man, I was like, this is JRB's place. And it was all full with like snacks and and water.
I was in Cabo playing that tournament.
Yeah, I wasn't in it. I mean, I was invited, but couldn't end up making it for whatever reason. I don't remember. But I remember they were like, yeah, like you're filming this. This is JRB's place. I was like, wow.
Cool.
People lost a lot of money in here.
I've got a couple haircuts in that barber's chair.
Oh,
I had long hair back then.
I still got the barber's chair. Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you stopping in. Obviously, there's a lot of meat left on the bone. I've said this to you in the past, but I strongly encourage at some point in time when you feel like you have the downtime to do so, start a podcast. And I mean it sincerely because I do think that, especially in poker, throughout the generations, it's really critical that there's some sort of messenger who is boots on the ground, and I think that you've seen more than just about anybody in this space, from the old school guys all the way through to the new. So I really appreciate you sharing some of those stories with us today and for coming over.
Yeah.
This was fun. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for
and
coming.
We'll do it again. And when I do start my podcast, you'll have to grace me with your presence.
I'll be happy to pop in. Maybe pull some strings with your boy Oaken. I mentioned that you dated his mom. Maybe you can twist his arm a little bit. Oh my goodness.
No, we didn't have time for that. We didn't have time for that story.
What's it gonna take to get me in this live stream? He had to leave and go to Europe to get me in there for a day.
Shout out to Oaken's mom.
We'll get you in there.
All right, that's gonna do it for us today. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Later, squad.
Peace.